My birthday cake was still warm on the kitchen counter when my mother cleared her throat. Not the gentle kind she used with guests, but the careful, official sound she used when she had already decided something and didn't want to be interrupted. My father didn't look up at all. He was scrolling on his phone, thumb moving slowly, like this conversation was an inconvenience he needed to get through. "We think we need some space from you," my mother said. For a second, I honestly thought I'd misheard her. I smiled, waiting for the joke to land, waiting for someone to laugh and say this was some awkward attempt at humor. "Space?" I asked. "It's my birthday." She slid an envelope across the table. No card, no handwriting. Just my name typed neatly on the front. My sister Rachel stood in the doorway behind them, arms crossed, face tight and prepared. She didn't look surprised. She looked like someone waiting for a plan to finish unfolding. Inside the envelope was a letter. Typed, polite, cold. It said they were cutting me off financially. Emotionally, too. It said they needed distance and asked me not to contact them for a while. It thanked me for understanding. I remember the strangest thing about that moment wasn't anger. It was how quiet everything felt. Like my body knew before my mind did that something permanent had just broken. Rachel had always been the golden one, the easy child, the one whose life followed the script my parents loved. Marriage, kids, predictability. I was the independent one, the strong one, the one they bragged didn't need help. What that really meant was that when it came time to choose, they could let me go without guilt. My father finally looked up. "We think you're distracted from family values," he said, like he'd practiced the sentence. I nodded slowly. I folded the letter and placed it back in the envelope. "Okay," I said. "I'll give you space." The relief on their faces hurt more than the words in that letter. I walked out with my cake still on the counter and my birthday candles unlit. What they didn't know was that the small consulting job they barely asked about had quietly grown into something much bigger. For 5 years, I had been building a financial systems company with private clients, strict non-disclosure agreements, and equity deals that paid off slowly but massively. No flashy social media posts, no announcements. I learned early that success in my family was only celebrated when it belonged to Rachel. So I kept mine quiet. That night, alone in my apartment, I cried until my chest hurt. Not because I was afraid of money. I was safe. I cried because losing your parents while they're still alive feels like grieving someone who refuses to admit they're gone. 3 months passed in silence. No calls, no texts, no accidental check-ins. Then one afternoon, my phone lit up. Rachel first. "Hey, can we talk?" A few minutes later, my mother. "Just checking in." Then my father, one sentence. "We may need your help." I felt something shift inside me. Not anger, not excitement, clarity. They invited me to dinner, same restaurant, same table. But this time, their voices were softer. My mother smiled too hard. My father leaned forward like he was negotiating something important. Rachel wouldn't meet my eyes. "We didn't realize how well you were doing," my father said. "Doing how?" I asked. Rachel finally spoke. "We saw your name on an investor list." There it was. They hadn't missed me. They had noticed my bank account. My mother reached across the table and touched my hand. "Family helps family," she said gently. Rachel cleared her throat and mentioned restructuring, needing support, co-signing something temporary. 3 months ago, I wasn't worth a phone call. Now I was a solution. I opened my banking app. I didn't rush. I let the moment stretch. Then I turned the screen toward them. The number wasn't flashy. It didn't need to be. It spoke for itself. My father froze. Rachel inhaled sharply. My mother's smile collapsed into something fragile and real. "That's yours?" she whispered. "Yes," I said. My father laughed nervously. Well, that changes things. It really does, I said. I thought you needed space, I continued calmly. My mother squeezed my hand harder. That was a misunderstanding, she said quickly. No, I replied. It was a decision. I stood, put on my coat, and felt the weight of every unasked question, every ignored achievement, every moment I had shrunk myself to stay lovable. You cut me off on my birthday, I said. You didn't ask if I was okay. You didn't ask what I was building. You asked for space. So here it is. I walked out while my mother called my name behind me. I didn't turn around, not because I was strong, but because I knew if I did, I'd break. Winning doesn't feel like movies make it look. There was no rush of triumph, just grief. Because revenge doesn't give you new parents, it gives you the truth. In the months that followed, the cracks spread. An article came out about emerging startups, and my name was mentioned. People noticed. Questions were asked. My parents told relatives I was busy, distant, overwhelmed. They controlled the story until they couldn't. My father left a voicemail saying they'd been unfair. Not cruel, not calculated, just unfair. Rachel messaged me, scared now, saying people were noticing me. For the first time, she wasn't ahead. She was reacting. When I met my mother alone, she didn't talk about missing me. She talked about what people would think, about how it looked that we weren't close. And finally, she asked the question she'd been circling since my birthday. Are you helping Rachel or not? No, I said. That single word changed everything. Plans stalled. Expectations collapsed. The future they'd built assuming my silence would last forever suddenly looked fragile. I won, but some nights I still reached for my phone. Some mornings I wondered if I'd been too cold. Revenge isn't loud. It's living with clarity, and clarity hurts. 6 months later, I showed up at a family event uninvited, not to make a scene, just to exist. I stood straighter. I spoke calmly. I didn't explain myself. They watched me like strangers who knew my name, but not my life. They had asked for space. I gave it to them. They had wanted distance. They got permanence. Because the moment they decided love depended on value, they taught me how to walk away wealthy in every way that actually matters. The months after that night were quiet, but the silence carried weight. I rebuilt my routines around myself, not their expectations. I traveled, signed new clients, and expanded my business quietly, deliberately. Every time my phone buzzed with a message from my family, I felt the old sting of being undervalued. But now, it came with power. I didn't need them to validate me. I didn't need their approval. I only needed their recognition that they had underestimated me. Rachel's messages became hesitant, clipped. She tried to invite me to family dinners, casual gatherings, even holidays. But I learned early that boundaries weren't just physical. They were emotional armor. I declined politely but firmly. They noticed my absence. They whispered about it. My mother's tone softened. My father's words became measured. They were no longer the arbiters of my life. They were spectators, observing the consequences of their decisions. One evening, my mother called again. Her voice trembled slightly, an unfamiliar vulnerability creeping in. We didn't understand, she said. I let her talk, not interrupting, not promising anything. I realized then that true power wasn't revenge through humiliation or wealth. It was through presence and control of my own story. I had won without malice, without yelling. I had taken the truth and lived it. When I saw Rachel at a cousin's wedding months later, she avoided me completely. The golden child wasn't golden anymore. Her reflection of superiority had dimmed. My parents tried to engage me politely, but every word they said carried the weight of their misjudgment. I didn't need to correct them. I didn't need to lecture them. I only existed, fully and unapologetically. That was enough. The birthday that had begun with a letter and a cold envelope became the turning point of my life. That night taught me that love and family can't be bought, and respect can't be demanded. It must be earned through truth. And when people try to control you with distance or disdain, the ultimate victory isn't in proving them wrong. It's in walking away while they watch, powerless, and realizing that you were never theirs to control. I bought myself a small cake that night, lit the candles alone, and made a silent wish. Not for revenge, not for wealth, but for clarity. And in that quiet moment, I finally felt the peace that my parents' letters could never give. They had lost control. They had lost the ability to define me. And for the first time, I was fully free. Months later, when family events circled back around, I attended on my own terms. I didn't announce my arrival. I didn't wait for permission. I walked in with confidence, my success evident in the way I carried myself, the calm in my voice, the weight in my presence. They watched. They whispered. They realized they could no longer manipulate the narrative. I understood then that revenge had never been about money, power, or proving them wrong. It was about reclaiming myself, untethered from their expectations. Every silent dinner, every withheld message, every unbothered smile was a statement. I no longer needed them to define who I was. I was complete, independent, free. And in that freedom, I finally discovered the truest form of victory: peace. The story doesn't end with confrontation or confrontation satisfaction. It ends with self-possession, with owning your own life, with walking through the spaces they tried to control and leaving behind only clarity and quiet strength. That is the revenge they could never see coming. After that, life became an exercise in deliberate presence. I no longer sought their approval, and they no longer assumed control over my decisions. Invitations to family dinners, holidays, or casual meetups came and went, but I attended only when it suited me. Each time I entered a room, I felt the subtle shift, the way eyes lingered on me longer than usual, the way conversations paused when I walked in, the unspoken awareness that I was no longer the same person they could manage or dismiss. Rachel's demeanor changed first. She had been the golden child, untouchable, always the one with the advantage. Now she moved carefully, hesitantly, aware that the hierarchy had shifted. My parents, too, began to mirror the tension I felt. They spoke politely but cautiously, their authority diminished by the reality that I no longer operated under their rules or timelines. I responded minimally, letting silence and calm confidence carry the weight. Every understated gesture reminded them that I had survived their emotional exile and emerged intact, stronger, and independent. Months passed, and the pattern became clear. The more they attempted to regain control, the more distant I became. They sent letters, texts, and messages, each increasingly polite, each more calculated. I responded with measured warmth, never anger, never panic. The subtlety of my power lay in my indifference, in the way I had reclaimed my narrative without ever raising my voice. I allowed them to see the consequences of their choices, the isolation that followed their decision to cut me off, the social and familial ripple effects, and the quiet realization that their favoritism had cost them a relationship they had assumed was guaranteed. Even during major family events, I attended on my own terms. I arrived quietly, unannounced, and carried myself with a self-possession they could not undermine. They whispered behind their hands, tried to insert themselves into conversations, but I remained distant, yet present, observant, yet unyielding. It was a powerful statement without a single word spoken, an assertion of autonomy, a reminder that my life was mine alone. The revenge I had imagined as dramatic and spectacular was, in reality, quiet and complete. It was not about financial superiority or public humiliation. It was about reclaiming myself, establishing boundaries, and demonstrating the irreversibility of my independence. Every glance, every conversation, every moment of restraint became an assertion of strength. In watching me live fully on my own terms, my parents and sister were confronted with the truth they had tried to ignore. They had lost the ability to define me. And in that realization, I found the most profound satisfaction: peace. Not the gloating satisfaction of revenge, but the enduring calm of clarity, autonomy, and self-respect. I could be myself, unshaken by their disapproval, unbound by their expectations, and untouched by their attempts to control me. Every step I took, every decision I made, carried the weight of my independence. And that, in the end, was the ultimate victory. The only one that truly mattered. After that night, life settled into a rhythm I controlled entirely. I no longer waited for calls or approvals, no longer measured my words or achievements against their expectations. Invitations to family events arrived sporadically: birthdays, holidays, even casual Sunday brunches. But I chose when, how, and if I would attend. Each time I stepped into a room where they were present, I could feel the subtle shift in energy. The glance my father avoided, the way my mother's smile faltered for a fraction of a second, the hesitant tone in Rachel's voice. They had expected me to bend, to soften, to forgive quietly. Instead, I simply existed, unbothered, and fully myself. Rachel was the first to show cracks. The once golden child, the flawless figure of their pride, now moved carefully around me, every word measured, every gesture hesitant. My parents followed too. Their authority and assumed control no longer held power over me. They tried subtle manipulation, mentions of family duties, veiled hints about opportunities I could offer. But I responded with polite calm, never anger, never panic, letting silence and quiet confidence carry the weight. Each time they tried to assert control, I reminded them effortlessly that their assumptions no longer dictated my life. Months went by, and patterns became clear. The more they attempted to regain influence over my choices, the more distant I remained. Letters and messages arrived, increasingly courteous, increasingly calculated, but I met them with measured neutrality. I never needed to prove my power through confrontation. My independence, unshaken and undeniable, was enough. My parents and sister began to understand, slowly and painfully, that their previous favoritism and manipulation had consequences they hadn't foreseen. They had underestimated me for years, and now the tables had turned without a single dramatic explosion, only quiet, relentless clarity. Even during major family gatherings, I attended on my own terms. I arrived quietly, unannounced, carrying an air of self-possession they could not influence. Conversations shifted. Whispers followed. Attempts at control faltered. I observed without responding, present yet untouchable. Every gesture, every look, every word they spoke reflected their understanding that the dynamic had changed. My life no longer revolved around earning their approval, and in that reality, the subtlest moments became the most powerful. Each glance, each calm response, each step taken independently reinforced the truth they could not reverse. I was no longer theirs to shape. The revenge I had once imagined as flashy and spectacular was, in reality, quiet and complete. I did not need to flaunt wealth or humiliate them. My reclamation of self-respect, my steadfast boundaries, and my demonstration of independence became my ultimate assertion of power. In every room, every conversation, every decision, I embodied a life that could not be influenced by their manipulation. In watching me navigate the world on my own terms, they were confronted with the truth they had tried to avoid for so long. They had lost control, and I had gained autonomy. In the end, the deepest satisfaction was not in wealth, confrontation, or drama. It was in the enduring calm that came with clarity. The peace that came from living fully, unapologetically, and independent of their influence. I could be myself, unshaken by their disapproval, untethered from their expectations, untouched by their attempts to manipulate me. Every choice, every step forward, every moment of quiet self-possession was a reminder that true victory is not about retaliation. It is about reclaiming yourself and never giving anyone the power to take that away. And in that quiet, unwavering presence, I finally understood what my parents had never grasped. Love cannot be demanded, respect cannot be bought, and control can only be exercised over those who allow it. By walking away without rage, by existing fully in my truth, I had achieved the only revenge that mattered, the freedom to live my life entirely on my own terms. Months turned into a year, and with each passing day, the distance between us became a quiet, unspoken truth. I no longer waited for their calls, no longer imagined how they would react to milestones in my life. Achievements were mine alone, celebrated privately, savored personally. I traveled, invested, expanded my company, and nurtured friendships and partnerships that had nothing to do with family expectations. The freedom was intoxicating. This life of my own design, built without permission, without approval, without compromise. Family events became exercises in presence and observation. I attended selectively, on my own terms, and the impact was subtle but undeniable. Conversations shifted the moment I entered a room. People whispered. My mother's smile became tentative, my father's voice carried a careful weight, and Rachel's attempts at charm faltered under my calm scrutiny. They no longer held sway over me. Their influence, once assumed, had dissolved. My independence was now visible in every gesture, every glance, every unshaken word. Rachel tried small manipulations, suggestions, indirect requests, but I met each one with composed silence. She had always been the golden child, and now she realized she wasn't untouchable. My parents' occasional attempts at persuasion were met with neutrality, polite acknowledgement, and then my own unwavering course. Each time they tried to pull me back, I reminded them through presence alone that I no longer operated on their timetable or their terms. The subtle assertion of autonomy became my weapon, more effective than any confrontation or argument. The quiet revenge was complete. I did not need to flaunt my wealth, and I did not need to humiliate them. I had reclaimed my story, my boundaries, and my life. Every glance they cast, every word they spoke, reflected their awareness of the shift. They had underestimated me for years, and now the tables had turned in ways they could not publicly acknowledge. Every choice I made, every step forward, reinforced the truth they could no longer control. I was free, independent, and unbound. Even in moments of solitude, I felt the satisfaction that came not from anger or retribution, but from clarity. I had survived their conditional love, their quiet manipulation, and emerged whole. Every private success, every silent victory, every decision made without compromise reminded me that I no longer needed their validation. The power had always been mine to reclaim, and I had done so with dignity, patience, and self-possession. By the end of that year, I fully understood the most important truth. Revenge is not measured by wealth, confrontation, or public spectacle. True revenge is quiet, deliberate, and deeply satisfying. It is the reclamation of yourself, the ability to exist fully, unapologetically, and free from the constraints others try to impose. By walking my path with clarity and independence, I had achieved the ultimate victory, the kind that could never be taken away, the kind that no one could ever diminish. And in that quiet triumph, I finally discovered what I had been seeking all along: peace, autonomy, and a life entirely my own. Theirs was a lesson learned too late. Love cannot be enforced, respect cannot be demanded, and control is powerless against self-possession. I had walked away unshaken, unbent, and fully free, and that was the only revenge that truly mattered.